of the chamber? Epithelium. So this is the second type of tissue. How the muscles are connected? By connective tissue. Do the work of the heart is regulated by nervous tissue? Autonomic nervous tissue. So the heart contains the 4 types of tissue. The same thing for all other organs in the body. These tissues exist in association. They are present together with one another, forming different organs and different systems. Gastrointestinal tract, respiratory tract, and so on. Epithelium. What are the characters of epithelial tissue? It is formed mainly of cells. So the main unit of structure in epithelium is cells. Do the cells with little intercellular substance. What do we mean by the intercellular substance? The substance which comes out from capillaries to nourish and give gas, oxygen to the cells, and then take the waste out and carbon dioxide from the cells. This is the intercellular substance, which is present in between the cells, but its amount is minimal, very, very small, to give nourishment and to give oxygen to the epithelial tissue. So the epithelial tissue is formed mainly of cells with little intercellular substance. Epithelial cells have strong adhesion. What do we mean by adhesion? They have to stick to each other. Otherwise, the cells will be separated. Do I have epithelium on my surface? Epidermis. If there is a scratch or friction, if the cells are not attached together, they are easily removed. So there has to be adhesion. Something to make the cells attached together for not easy separation. Membrane interdigitation, together with the adhesion structures which makes the cells come together attached. There are where I am. These cells have strong adhesion. Membrane interdigitation. Most of you have a coach, right? Coach. Yes. Shoes. Adidas. Nike. Or anyone else. How you close it? By 2 bands. One band go to another band. Each band is formed of a projection, and these have a projection. If the 2 projections come in between each other, the shoes is tight, with no separation, with no opening. So, besides the cell adhesions, there are interdigitations. But the amount of interdigitation differs from one cell to another. And intercellular junctions. Do the cytoplasm of some cells is connected to each other? By what? Gap junction. The gap junction is the most common wide cell junction in the body. Present almost in all body cells except skeletal muscle. So it is present in between epithelial cells, between cardiac muscle cells, between nerve cells and synapse, also in between epithelial cells. These features allow the cells to form cellular sheets, layer spreading on the surface. This sheet covers or lines the body surfaces. How many surfaces do we have? 2 external surfaces, together with internal surfaces. Right or wrong? Yeah. Right. Internal surface, the gastrointestinal tract or the gastric tract or GI tract has a cavity into which the food moves, digested, absorbed, and then the rest goes out as stools. The urinary tract have lumen, so the urine is formed and goes out. The respiratory tract have a lumen, air goes in and out. The genital tract, there is a space for the baby to go out, to rise and then go out. In the male, there is a space containing semen. So cavities, there are internal cavities together with external cavities. All of them are covered by epithelium. Okay, by epithelium. So the first type of epithelium, covering or lining epithelium, covering external surfaces and lining internal cavities. Do the pleura is a cavity? Yes. The pericardium is a cavity? Yes. The peritoneum is a cavity? What is the lining epithelium? What is the lining of these cavities? Epithelium. Epithelium. Or perform secretory functions. All glands in the body are epithelial in origin. What are the types of glands do we have? Endocrine and exocrine. What do you mean by endocrine?
Inside plus vessels.
Liver secretion through ducts. Endocrine, liver secretion to blood. We can call it ductless. But to where the secretion goes?
To the blood.
Why to the blood?
Because there is no duct.
To distant, faraway sites. What is the meaning of an exocrine gland?
Have ducts.
Contain ducts which deliver the secretion to a surface. Give me an example. Do I have glands in my skin? Sweat and secretions. Okay? In the mouth cavity, salivary glands. In my abdomen, there are glands in the gastrointestinal together with the pancreas. So the epithelium may be covering or lining epithelium. First type. Number 2, secretory functions, endocrine and exocrine. Number 3, neuroepithelium. What do we mean by neuroepithelium?
Nervous.
Sensory. What do you mean by sensory?
Nerve.
It receives the sensation. Give me example. Taste the sensation.
Oh my God.
If I have to know the type of perfume, I have to distribute it in the air and then to know if it is good or bad. What is the sensation?
The skin.
Olfactory sensation. So, where are these present? On a surface epithelium. In the nose, in a surface epithelium. Some sites are modified to receive a specific sensation. So these are the 3 main types of epithelium. The epithelium which forms sheets to cover surfaces or lining cavities. The epithelium which form glands. The epithelium which form sensory structures. We call it neuroepithelium because the sensation is transmitted by nerve cells. So what are the characters of epithelium? Cover surfaces and lines cavities. With little intercellular substance, the cell lie on a basal lamina or basement membrane. The sheet of epithelial cells. The sheet of epithelial cells have to rest on something. This something is called, in most of the tissues, basal lamina. In some other sites, basement membrane. We have not to differentiate between them right now. The cells rest on this basal lamina, but under the basal lamina is connective tissue. What does it contain? Blood vessels. Why? To give nutrition to epithelial cells. But the substances which have to pass from blood vessels to epithelial have to be suitable. Not everything will pass. So the basal lamina or basement membrane acts as supporting and also barrier, selective barrier to pass the needed things and not to pass the others. Avascular has no blood vessels, but the blood vessels which nourish the epithelium are present where? In the underlying connective tissue. The epithelia are continuously renewed and replaced. What are all cells in the body except nerve cells and cardiac muscle cells have an age, which may be hours, days, months, years, and then will die. And the surrounding cells will repel or will reform new cells, except for the nervous tissue and the cardiac. If the nerve cell died, it will not renew. If the cardiac muscle fibers died, it will be replaced by fibrous tissue. So the epithelium the epithelial cells renew itself. Epithelial cells are specialized for absorption. Absorption where? Small intestine, good. Where? What else? Kidney, because you get out a big amount of water to take the wastes out, but you recollect a big amount of water and what you need. And lastly, 1.5 liters will go per day. Absorption. Where is absorption? We mentioned absorption. Okay, secretion. Actually, absorption is the gastrointestinal tract. Secretion is glands. Whatever it is, exocrine or endocrine. And the kidney also for excretion. Or to act as a barrier. Do you know some barriers? Blood-brain barrier. You know others? Forget about it. Okay, we will come during the year. Derived from 3 germ layers. Some sites of epithelium are ectodermal in origin from the outer layer of the embryo, mesodermal in origin from the middle layer of the embryo, or endodermal, which is the inner layer of the This represents surface epithelium. It is formed of one layer of cells. Each cell have a nucleus. The epithelium rests on a basal lamina or basement membrane. The epithelium is nourished from the blood vessel present in the underlying connective tissue. Do the epithelium can form glands? Yes. During development, the epithelium goes down to that underlying connective tissue and form secretory units or glands. If the gland is connected by a duct to the surface, we call it exocrine gland. If the gland is separated from the surface and deliver its secretion to the blood, it is called endocrine gland. So this is developmentally during the development of the formation. Types of epithelium I already mentioned. Covering epithelium, glandular epithelium, neuroepithelium, we already talked about. What is about myoepithelial cells? Do you have an idea?
Myo?
Okay. Wait. If you have a wound, and the wound is small and not big, there will be regeneration or proliferation of the covering epithelium together with the underlying connective tissue and with the body healing. Right?
Yes.
Who brings these ends together? Make it close for easy regeneration. Cells. called myome, meaning it contains actin and myosin for contraction. Epithelial, they are not muscular, related not to muscular tissue, but related to epithelial tissue. These myoepithelial cells will contract to bring the sides of the wound together for good healing. Suppose the wound was white. If you want to come. The wound is white. What will happen? Or what you have to do? If you left it, a scar will be formed. What is the structure of a scar? Connective tissue covered by thin layer of epithelium. And this is bad. You have to stitch it to make the two sides close together. So when they are close together, the healing will be excellent. There will be no scar. And if the scar is present, it is minimal. Classification of surface epithelium. What we call it? Covering epithelium. Whatever covering outer surfaces or lining inner cavities. If the epithelial sheet or covering epithelium is forming of one layer of cells, we call it semble. If the epithelium is forming of multiple layers of cells, we call it stratified. Do we have another type of division? Yes. What is the second type of division?
According to shape.
Depending on shape. Shape of what? Of cells. If the squamous, if the semble is forming of one layer of squamous or flattened cells, we call it semble squamous. If the epithelium is formed of cubical cells, we call it semble cubical. If the epithelium is formed of one layer of columnar cells, we call it semble columnar. If the columnar cells, some of them reach to the surface and the others remain basal, so stratified columnar. If the semble columnar have cilia, we call it semble columnar ciliated. If the semble columnar ciliated have goblet cells, we call it respiratory epithelium, because it is characteristic to epithelium lining upper respiratory tract. What is the upper respiratory tract?
The nose, mouth.
Nose, nasopharynx, larynx, trachea, and there are bronchi outer to the lung and bronchi inner to the lung. So these are the types of semble epithelium. Now stratified epithelium. What do we mean by stratified epithelium? Formed of more than one layer of cells. Is there any subdivisions? Yes. Depending on the shape of the surface cells. And whatever is the shape of the underlying cells. The underlying cells may be columnar, may be cubical, may be anything. The superficial cells, if they are squamous, we call it stratified squamous epithelium. If the superficial layer is cubical, we call it stratified cubical. If the superficial layer is columnar, stratified columnar. Okay? If the epithelium changes from cubical to flattened, we call it transitional epithelium. Very good. You took it in high schools?
Orientation year.
Last year? Okay, so you have a good base. Make it easier for me. So we finished this slide. The division of the type of epithelium.
أتوقع عارفين يعني
Okay, make it small division. So covering epithelium may be sembled, formed of one layer of cells resting on the basal membrane or basal lamina. Types, semble squamous, simple cubical, simple columnar, which may be ciliated or non-ciliated. Pseudostratified columnar, which may be ciliated or non-ciliated. We'll give examples later on. What is this type of epithelium? Simple squamous. You see that the cells are flattened. The cell is raised only at the site of the nucleus. The nucleus appears flattened. One layer of flattened cells with a central flattened nucleus, we call it simple squamous. Where we can find simple squamous epithelium? Blood vessels. Why? All blood vessels are lined by simple squamous. We call it endothelium. But these epithelium lines arteries, veins, and small blood vessels. Generally, it gives a smooth surface. Because if the surface is rough, it leads to coagulation of blood with formation of blood clotting. Okay? So it gives a smooth surface. Generally, we are not. Blood capillaries are one type of vessels. Whatever they are, blood vessels or lymph vessels. Lining the blood vessels is called endothelium. So simple squamous epithelium lining blood vessels is called endothelium. Lining serous membrane, serous cavities, pleura, which surrounds the lung, pericardium, which surrounds the heart, and peritoneum, which is in the abdominal cavity. Lining the lung alveoli. Do you know what's the lining of lung alveoli? What are the types of cells lining lung alveoli? Two types of cells. Two types of cells. Simple squamous forms the main surface. We call it pneumocyte type 1. Okay, alveolar one cell type. Forget about it. We'll make it in, we'll know it in the respiratory tract. Number 2, some cells which secrete a fluid, which is called surfactant.
Called what?
Okay, what's the main type of cells lining alveoli? Simple squamous cells. Whatever its name, whatever its function. Forget about right now. Parietal layer of Bowman's capsule of the kidney. You know Bowman's capsule? Yes. How many layers for the Bowman's capsule? 2 layers. With a space in between. The outer layer, simple squamous. And there is another layer formed of specialized epithelial cells called podocytes. So, outer layer of Bowman's capsule. And here, what is this? This is Bowman's capsule. What is in the middle? Tuft of capillaries, a group of capillaries. What is this space? The space in which urine comes out of capillaries. The lining epithelium here, simple squamous. How we know it? One acidophilic line with flattened nuclei. So this is simple squamous epithelium. Here another type of epithelium, which is called podocyte. Forget about it. What is this? Blood vessel. How we know that it is a blood vessel? Was written. No, we are speaking histology. Number 1, it contains blood cells. All of these are blood cells, which are non-nucleated cells. The whole is formed of 3 layers. What are these layers? Tunica intima, tunica media, tunica adventitious. Right? This is tunica media, tunica intima, tunica media, tunica adventitious. Forget about right now.
كل الأربع فوقات.
So, it lines, one layer of simple squamous cells lines the blood capillaries. We call it endothelial cells. What is the name of simple squamous cells lining serous cavities? The pleura, the heart, the lung. The epithelium lining blood vessels, we call it simple squamous epithelium lining the blood vessels is called endothelium. The epithelium lining serous cavities, we call it mesothelium. When you hear mesothelium, what does it mean? Simple squamous epithelium lining serous cavity. We hear endothelium, what does it mean? Simple squamous lining blood vessel. Simple cubical epithelium. Definition: formed of a single layer of cubical cells resting on the basal lamina or basement membrane. When we call them cubical cells. Cubes. The breadth, the length, the depth. Cubes. The length, the breadth, and the depth. العمق are the same. What is the second character? The nucleus is rounded. What else? Central. One single central nucleus. One single rounded central nucleus. Because in all sections, in most of the sections, you may not be able to see the cell boundary. What is the cell boundary? It's the end of each cell, which is the cell membrane, in light microscope. You only see cytoplasm with one layer of rounded nuclei. Then, when you look under the microscope, what you have to describe it? What's its name? Simple cubical epithelium. So in sections, it is not important to see the cell boundary, but you have to look at the shape of the nucleus. Okay? Each cell has a single rounded central nucleus. Where you can find this type of epithelium? Very common in glands. Which type of glands? Thyroid gland. Very good. You can find it in ducts. Yes, some ducts of the kidney are lined by simple cubical cells. In exocrine glands, also some ducts in exocrine glands. Do the kidney is a gland? Yes? Who forms the erythropoietin? What is erythropoietin? The stimulus for the formation of blood cells. And also it's okay. Forget about I am just by chance. By chance I made this word, exocrine gland. Exocrine gland as regard to what? Urine. But it does secrete hormones? Yes, some hormones. One of them, not renin. Renin from, yes, but renin is regarded as an enzyme and not a hormone. Forget about it. Okay. Whatever they say to you, it's okay. But this is what I know. Renin formed by juxtaglomerular apparatus. Okay? And it makes a circle. Okay, until angiotensin 2.
Yeah.
Some regard say it as an enzyme. Forget about this. Okay? These are the sites of simple cubical epithelium. I speak with you in this way because I feel that you are good. If you you are lower, I have to go lower and take you up. But if you are up, I have to take you more up. Okay. What are these pictures? For which type of epithelium? Simple cuboidal epithelium. What is this section? It's the section in thyroid gland. The secretory units in thyroid gland is called thyroid follicle, thyroid follicle, thyroid follicle, thyroid follicle. What is in the middle? The secretion of the cells, which we call it colloid. What is the type of lining epithelium? Simple cubical epithelium. So, example thyroid follicles. Number 2, what are these? You see here, you cannot see the cell boundary in between the cubical cells. But look here. This is a tubule. This is another tubule in the kidney. What is the lining epithelium? Simple cubical. Mostly, or in some sites, the cell boundary, the limit of the cell is seen, but in others, the limit in between cells is not seen. So one layer of nuclei is called simple cubical epithelium. What is this? Also kidney tubule. Kidney tubule. You see simple cubical cells together together with other types. Simple columnar epithelium. It is formed of one layer of columnar cells. Height of cells exceeds its width. يعني الطول أكبر من الطول. Each cell has a single basal oval nucleus. So, if you didn't see the cell boundary, how do you know that this is a simple columnar? The nuclei are oval. Next, basal. Basal in the most dependent part. So, in simple columnar epithelium, it is formed of one layer of cells. These cells have oval basal nuclei. You cannot see the nuclei in the upper part of the epithelium. Types unmodified, just a simple columnar. Modified, secretory. Secretory. So, it may have a function of lining epithelium or protection. This is simple. Or it may secrete, where we find columnar epithelium. Its function is secretion of mucus. Stomach. Stomach. We are in simple columnar and not pseudostratified columnar ciliate epithelium with no itself. This paradox is present in the trachea, and we are speaking about the first grade, simple columnar. Simple columnar, secretory modified. What is the type of cells lining the stomach? What is its function? Protective. Protective to what? Surface of the stomach. From what? Enzymes present digesting the different types of food inside. How you protect the surface of the stomach? Secretion of mucus. Mucus. HCl is secreted by gastric glands. And the mucogen is secreted by gastric glands. I am speaking about the surface epithelium. So, the cells on the surface are simple columnar, non-ciliated. What is its function in the stomach? Mucus secretion. For what? Protection and lubrication. Because for the food to move against the surface smoothly. Absorptive. Where you can find simple columnar absorptive epithelium. intestine or intestine. How we make these cells absorptive? We have, this is columnar cell lining intestine. This is the surface. The cell membrane form microvilli. Do the microvilli are few? Many. Many microvilli form brush border. What do you mean by brush border?
What?
Painting brush. Just like the painting brush. Brush border. So, what is the function of the brush border? Increase the surface area for absorption. Do we have a brush border but in cubical cells?
No.
In the kidney. Proximal convoluted tubules of the kidney have a brush border, but this brush border is for what? For absorption. For absorption. So forget about this, but simple columnar with a brush border is present in intestine. Absorptive, characterized by presence of apical microvilli to increase the surface area for absorption, e.g., an example, absorptive columnar cells of the small intestine. I have to add, but forget about. Most of the cells of the body have microvilli by electron microscope to increase the surface area to deal with the surrounding structure. But if they are present at many and at a specific site, they form special structures just like the brush border of columnar cells lining the intestine. Ciliated. What do you mean by cilia? Cell projections. What is its function? Do they are long or short? Long. Do they move or not? Where you can find simple columnar ciliated epithelium.
In the respiratory?
We are speaking about simple columnar or pseudostratified columnar?
Simple.
Simple. Simple columnar. Where you can find simple columnar ciliated epithelium.
Respiratory.
Okay.
Simple columnar.
You can find it in the bronchioles. You can find it in the fallopian tube to move the ovum. You can find it in the uterus. Okay? To see what they mention. The free surface is supplied by cilia, uterus, fallopian tube, trachea, and the lung bronchi. Actually, it's bronchioles and not bronchi. Because bronchi, pseudostratified columnar ciliated epithelium with no difference. What are these? What is this picture? Is it a light microscopic or an electron microscopic picture?
Electron.
Electron microscopic picture. This is the cell. This is the cell. Here is the cell membrane. The cell membrane goes up and down, up and down, up and down to form microvilli. How to keep these microvilli supported, standing up and not flattened? We have to put the support. What is this type of support? Filaments. Which type of filaments? Microfilaments. So microvilli have a metal support forming of microfilaments or actin filaments. These filaments are attached in upper part of cytoplasm to a network of fibers called terminal web.
صور.
Now to cilia. And we mentioned the difference between, how many minutes are left? 5 minutes. Tell me which type of epithelium is this? Simple columnar. What is this dark line? Brush border. Yes, brush border. Brush border. Brush border. Very good. Brush border. Okay, this is simple columnar characterized by the presence of basal oval nuclei. The nuclei does not reach to the surface, and this is a brush border. This is the magnification of this part. Magnified part of this section. Pseudostratified columnar epithelium. What do we mean by pseudo? False. Very good. Stratified. Multiple layers of what? Of nuclei. How do you know simple from stratified? Sometimes you cannot see the cell boundary, but you see the nuclei. If the nuclei are in one row, it's. If the nuclei are in multiple rows, it's stratified. But here, some cells, all the cells rest on the basement membrane or basal lamina. Some of the cells stop here, so does not go to the surface. But the rest of cells go to the surface. The cells which extend up to the surface, their nuclei are present in a little bit far from the base. The cells which does not reach to the surface, their nuclei are present basally. But no nuclei in the upper part of cytoplasm. If you see nuclei in the upper part of the epithelium, it's stratified. But if you see the nuclei in the basal part, it is, and the oval, it is pseudo-stratified columnar epithelium. Now, types non-ciliated lines ducts of salivary gland. Male urethra, the urethra of male. Ciliated. In the respiratory epithelium, the epithelium is pseudo-stratified columnar ciliated epithelium with goblet cells. What is the function of each type? How many types of cells do we find here? 3. Columnar cells which reach to the surface and rest on the basement membrane. Low columnar cells or pyramidal cells or cone-shaped cells present on the basement membrane but does not reach to the surface. And goblet cells. So, how many times? Columnar ciliated, basal, goblet. What is the function of basal cells? A stem cell. When we call stem cell, what does we mean? Can form new cells. Any cell present in this epithelium, degenerated or lost, can be renewed from these basal cells. What is the function of goblet cells? Secretion of mucus. What is the function of mucus? protection. But here, no lubrication because it is just the air. But what's its function? Entangle. Catch. Catch what? Dust. Foreign particles entering through the air. And this mucus has to be moved by cilium. So this is the respiratory epithelium. When I ask you what is the respiratory epithelium, you call pseudostratified columnar ciliated epithelium with
Goblet cells.
Usually ciliated, usually associated with goblet cells, where in the respiratory tract, trachea, bronchi, nasopharynx, lacrimal sacs. What are lacrimal sacs? Yes, not forget about. It's just knowledge, but you can't forget about. With stereocilia, what are? There is another type. Pseudostratified columnar with stereocilia. What are the stereocilia? Long, branched microvilli. So what are stereocilia? Long, branched microvilli. Do they are movable? No.
Yeah.
What is the function of microvilli? Increase the surface area for secretion or uptake. Okay? Where you can find pseudostratified columnar with stereocilia in epididymis. What is the epididymis? Part of male genital tract. What is its function? Storage of sperms. During their storage, they need nutrition. They increase the size. How? By stereocilia to the lining epithelium of epididymis. To give them nourish and they take up waste products. Thank you, and this is quite up for today. Quite enough for today. No. I don't like this. I don't like this. Yes, if you have a question, ask me. I don't like this. I am doing my job. And I understand. You appreciate my lecture or not? From your eyes, from your questions, from your silence. Yes.
Is there any way that we can get this presentation?
Yes.
First, and what's your name?
My name, I mentioned it first. My name is Mahmoud Mustafa Hassan. From Egypt. Clear? Are you Egyptian? We are all Arabs.